fortunate today because I get to come up here and talk about one of my favorite amendments. It's the amendment that keeps all of the other amendments safe. That would be the Second Amendment. Now, y'all have had all of this upbeat music, and I hate to kind of bring you down a little bit. I'll try to bring you back up. But I am going to tell you, because many of you haven't heard it, I want to tell you a story about my life. I didn't grow up in a house with guns. I'm not into going out and blasting Bambi, not that there's anything wrong with that. But I did grow up in a house where my father was an expert on the founding of the country, so I knew about the Second Amendment, I knew its purpose, and I understood it. And when I was 21 and moved out on my own, I was given a gun and taught how to use it. And I carried it illegally. It was actually an assistant district attorney in Harris County, Houston area, that convinced me to carry it illegally. He said, "Susie, you don't see this stuff." And he was right. I lived in an upper middle class neighborhood. I didn't see any violence around me. He said, "Yeah, but I see it every day. You need to carry this thing." So I did. I began to carry that thing religiously. Well, back in 1991, and some of you know this story, my parents and I were at a local cafeteria, local meaning in the Killeen, Texas area. It was a beautiful, sunny day, middle of the day. Remember now, this was 1991, so you got to get that in your mind. We had just finished eating when all of a sudden this man crashes his truck through the window, knocked over a number of tables, a number of patrons went flying, and I began to raise up to go help the people that he had injured. And then we heard gunshots. And I can remember thinking, it's a robbery. We got down on the floor, my father and I put the table up in front of us, and we expected to hear the guy say something like, "All right, everybody put your wallets up on the table." But that didn't happen. He was simply walking around, taking aim, pointing at one person, pulling the trigger. Then he would go to the next person, take aim, pull the trigger. He had complete control over the situation. It took a good 45 seconds, which is an eternity, to figure out that this guy was simply going to walk around and shoot people. Remember, 1991, this stuff wasn't happening back then. When I did figure it out, I thought, I've got him. I've got this guy. I reached for my purse on the floor next to me. Remember now, he's up. Everybody in the restaurant is down. I've got the table up in front of me. I've got a place to prop my arm. I've hit much smaller targets at much greater distances. But then I realized that a couple of months earlier, I made the stupidest decision of my life. My gun was 100 yards away in my car, completely useless to me, because I did what so many of you would have done. I didn't want to break the law. I thought, what are the odds of anything like this happening? If I need my gun, it's going to be if I'm on a back Texas road and I break down. It's sure as heck not going to be in a crowded restaurant, right? So there was my gun, useless to me out in my car. At that point, my father took my attention, and I had to hold him down by the shirt collar, and he said, "I gotta do something, I gotta do something. He's gonna kill everybody in here." When he saw what he thought was a chance, he ran after me, but he only covered maybe half the distance. The man, as I said, had complete control, and he simply turned and shot my father. I saw the wound, I saw him go down. He was still alive, and he was still conscious, but I basically wrote him off at that point. The good thing was that it actually made the gunman change direction slightly. Instead of continuing directly toward me, he went off to my left and began around the room this way. And when I saw what I thought was a chance, I grabbed my mother by the shirt collar. I said, come on, we gotta run, we gotta get out of here. And my feet grew wings, and I made it out a back window where a number of other patrons had made it out. As soon as I got out there, I ran into a friend of mine, and he said, "Thank God you're all right." And I said, "Yeah, but Dad's been hit and it's bad." And I turned to say something to my mother, and for the first time realized she had not followed me out. Now I'm going to fast forward 15, 20 minutes later. I'm going to tell you that the police officers in my, God bless them, several of them were patients of mine at the time. They were in the building next door. And in an odd twist of gun control fate, the manager of that building didn't want the patrons, it was a hotel, to be uncomfortable with the sight of guns on these police officers. So he had asked them to leave their loaded guns in their locked vehicles in the trunk, wasting precious minutes as this man was killing innocent people like sheep in a barrel. Or is that fish in a barrel? Precious moments were lost. They said that all they had to do when they got there, they didn't know who the killer was for a few moments. They did see a woman out in an aisleway cradling a mortally wounded man. They said they saw a 30-something young man walk up to her, put a gun to her head. They said she looked up at him, put her head down, and he pulled the trigger. That's how they knew who the gunman was. They said that all that they had to do was fire a shot into the ceiling, and this got rabbited to a back bathroom alcove area because they're all cowards. They exchanged a little gunfire, and then he put a bullet in his own head. Saved us all the problem. He killed 23 people that day. Up until recently, it was the largest mass shooting in this country. 23 people, including my parents. It hadn't occurred to me at the time when I was running out that back window, but my mom wasn't going anywhere without Dad. They had just had their 47th wedding anniversary. Now, this may sound a little odd to you, but I wasn't mad at the guy that did it, because to me that's like being mad at a rabid dog. You don't be mad at a rabid dog, you take it behind the barn and you kill it, but you don't be mad at it. But let me tell you, I was mad as hell at my legislators because they had legislated me and other people in there out of the right to protect ourselves and our families. And then I became one. But you know, I feel fortunate because I'm one of those fortunate people that I've been on both ends of the spectrum now. I have stood before legislators and testified, and I have sat up on the dais and listened to people testify. So I know what it's like to be on both sides of the spectrum there. And I know that guns are not a guarantee. Of course they're not a guarantee. It's a hunk of metal. But they change the odds. And that's an important point. Your little old grandmother in a wheelchair that's going out to get her Social Security check, and those three little thugs know she's going to get her Social Security check, and they come after her with screwdrivers and knives. Now all of a sudden, she's on equal, if not better than equal footing with those kids. Argue about the Second Amendment with your neighbors or with squishy people, okay? I understand that, and there may be some squishy people here in the audience today when it comes, and I hate to say this, but a lot of times it's my women, it's women. You know, we're not comfortable with the idea of guns. They make loud noises, and it's a true thing, but let me put it to you this way. A lot of people think there's a problem with guns, that guns are the problem, but think about this for a minute. Think about these mass shootings that we've had in this country. We had it at Luby's. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. That couldn't have happened because guns weren't allowed there. Oh, then there was the post office. You remember the post office shooting? Oh, wait a minute. Guns aren't allowed in federal buildings. Columbine. Whoops. Guns aren't allowed there. Let's see. There was the Xerox factory in Honolulu with the big no gun sign on it. Guns weren't allowed there. Virginia Tech.